Hi, I'm Dan Miller, Historical Solutions. Welcome to Americanism Redux and our set of stories for the third quarter from 1773. That's July, August, and September of that year, and the role that they play in the road to American founding in the summer of 1776. Still just a little less than 3 years away, but we're going to find that the revolution is burning alive and well before there was ever a declaration made. Because we've got three things. The first is that the independence movement, or what I'm calling the colonial rights movement at this point, is really alive and well. It's, as we talked before, it started earlier in 1773. That's not changed at all. In fact, it's continued to gain speed, and part of that gaining of speed in the third quarter comes from the first wave of news. The news of the Tea Act and the Governing Act that revolve around the East India Company, and the fact that their tea will be kind of forced upon the American colonists along the Atlantic coast, and that has given additional momentum to the colonial rights movement by the time we have the third quarter of 1773. Now, there's something else going on that we really need to know, and that is out across the Ohio Valley there's a bad moon rising, and that bad moon is tensions and hostility and small-scale violence between settlers who are coming from the east, who are headed into the Ohio Valley on one hand, and local native tribes who are already there on the other. And I'm talking about the Lenape, the Shawnee, the Wyandot, and other native tribes on almost a week-to-week and certainly a month-to-month basis. There's bloodshed, there's turmoil in this area between these two groups, if you will, and that is going to be an important part of the rest of 1773. And our question will be, does it connect to what's going on along the coast relative to the Tea Act and the reaction to it? Now, those are two big things that we have to understand as we head into the fourth quarter of 1773. But before I wrap up today's summary of July, August, and September of 1773, I'd like to remind you of a story for those of you who've stayed with me through my weekly writings, and that's Hagar. Hagar is the name of a black woman, and she's been accused and tried and convicted of having tried to kill a white man. This is in the eastern shore of the colony of Maryland in Queen Anne's County. She was found guilty, and she was sentenced to some form of corporal punishment. This is in August, and as we get into early September, and that form of corporal punishment is yet to be decided. It might be a caning, it might be a beating, it might be a whipping, it could even be a hanging and her execution. So what's unusual about this story, and it's occurred across the third quarter of 1773, is that there's been a pause. There's been a pause in the process. So as I said, she was sentenced, and I listed to you the possible outcomes of that sentencing. But for our purposes, she's been put in jail, and she's still in jail for 3 weeks after that sentencing. And then 5 white judges in Queen Anne's County call her into court to give their final opinion as to what will happen, their final determination as to what course her life will take at that point in time. And for you to know the outcome, I'm going to have to ask you to go to my website and read the entry for September 28th, because that's when the story of Hagar finally concludes. And we find out what happens to her and the unusually paused verdict of these 5 white judges. I'll give you one thought of mine. Nobody's used the word in the record, such as it is, of this story. Nobody's used the word investigation, but that's clearly what's happened between the sentencing and then this final resentencing that occurs by September 28th. There's been an investigation, and the investigation has uncovered a result. And I'd like you to go to the website and see what that result is on my September 28th entry. So we're wrapping up the third quarter of 1773. The colonial rights movement is all on fire. The question will be, will the fire keep burning, or will the fire burn out in the fourth quarter? Join me for October, November, and December of 1773 in the fourth quarter coming up. I'm Dan Miller. Welcome to Americanism Redux.